Bring out Elizabeth Selwyn.
The tortured souls cried out in agony as the flames mounted higher and higher. Burn, witch, burn, witch, burn, burn, burn. Those I've said is known today, the actual practice of witchcraft in 17th century New England.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, because I lean in, because I usually put my chair back, because I'm one of those cool motherfuckers.
Hell yeah.
And, that's why that's why the bitches love me, man. I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
Oh, boy. We're just going to isolate half of our audience by using the word bitches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's inappropriate, man. That's 20. We're 2021, Lenny. God damn it.
Hey, you said it, not me. But in keeping with that sexism,
you pushed me into it.
We're discussing today a movie that addresses at times heavy-handedly sexism, but
in the second half, heavy-handedly.
Well, yeah, and in the beginning, well, let's jump. I guess we'll just jump right into this, and we'll start talking about it. So, this was initially you had told me about this because I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, I just saw a trailer for it on YouTube, like I usually do, and it looked really good. It looked really polished, and I was like, "All right, this," and it's got Chloe Grace Moretz, who I love. I think she's fantastic.
She's a great actor, and I like her no matter what she's in.
Exactly.
And by the way, we're sorry, and you know what? We're remiss. So, welcome to Cinema Slaughter. I'm Lenny. This is my buddy.
What is my name? I don't know. Omar.
Oh, there you go. You should. I told you, tattoo it to your hand.
I got to stop smoking that crack.
You really do. You got to cut back at least. I mean, you don't have to stop, but at least cut back. Like maybe half of what you're doing right now.
You know what it is? I sprinkle it on my food, like instead of salt and pepper, I just use meth and crack. Put it all over my sweetmeats and,
sweet
crunch into it, man.
Wow.
I roll with my sweetmeats.
Okay. Well, that being said,
on that note,
we will discuss some other sweetmeats coming right up here. Shadow in the Clouds.
Yeah.
And so written by Max Landis and tweaked by the director. I believe her name is Roseanne Liang. And I got to tell you, I had no expectations going into this movie whatsoever because I really didn't know much about it. And sometimes I like doing that because you become surprised, or if you go into it with expectations or
you got that in the back of your head the whole time.
Yeah, it colors your experience. So I had really no idea, and I didn't really know Max Landis was involved in this. And so Max Landis himself has been going through some crazy allegations, sexual misconduct, and all kinds of issues, and which is a shame, really, because I love John Landis himself. He's an icon. He's crazy and funny and just a solid director. And Max Landis himself was up and coming, and whenever I'd watch trailers from hell, I always loved his reviews. He's a wacky kind of guy, and he's always so animated and interesting, which was why I was so disappointed when I found out about him, because he was abusive and cruel, and there were all kinds of other issues going on with him, which I don't know what the truth is of them, but it's just, it's a poor reflection on who he is as a person, if they're true.
Yeah,
the guy's an interesting writer. He's written some even just funny and off the wall kind of stuff. Even just American Ultra, which was a fun movie, if not perfect or a great film. It's still fun. So going into this movie, I didn't know about it until after the fact, but we were talking about it, and we were watching the first maybe the first third of the film was so damn good, or I would say the first half of the film.
Half, definitely for me, it was half.
Yeah. So we go into this movie where, um, this woman has a package, almost a MacGuffin, you think, the way that they were using it, to divert attention from what was going on. She gets on a plane. She's in Auckland, New Zealand during World War II. She jumps on this plane, um, and she's, a secret mission, you think, and it's World War II, so that the crew is leery of her. But immediately she is told, get into the turret. So anyone who has seen these World War II bombers, these flying fortresses,
Mm-hmm.
they um they had multiple points. They had a tail gunner, they had an under gunner, it was like a globe basically, and you would go into this gun. And then they had one on the top, or on the roof gunner, the top gun, and then they had um, gunning or gunnery stations, on both sides of the fortress itself. And it was also a bomber, and so they have the hatch work for dropping bombs, etc. So this plane is a fortress, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Um,
Super Fortress, right? Something like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So she
Hmm.
gets on this plane and she's told, look, we don't have any more open seats, so get in the hatch and get into the bottom gun. So she does. And she puts the headset on, and immediately we hear the crew's commentary about a woman being on the plane. Um, so, which
Typical
rude, crass,
1940s. Yeah, typical
right.
1940s point of view of women.
Yeah, so the sexism is on fire in this movie. The
Hmm.
whole crew is constantly belittling her. She's not just a dame, but she's actually an officer, a flight officer, and she should be commanding the respect of these crew members, but she's not. They're mocking her, they're belittling her, tons of sexist comments, and she takes it with, you know, not just a grain of salt, but she, gives as good as she's getting, and she kind of puts them in their places. And but then you realize that sexism and hatred, it goes beyond. It's misogynistic. It really is.
Yeah.
There's one crew member or two crew members that lay off of it, but they're all looking at her like a piece of meat. Their commentary was, you know, pretty crass, and it sets the tone for the rest of the movie because they diss her, but they also disbelieve anything she has to say. So they're flying, and obviously, they're in New Zealand, so they're in the South Pacific, and she immediately tells them, "Hey, I saw a Japanese plane," and they're like, bullshit. This is, they don't take anything she says um,
Seriously.
seriously, and it's insulting. And they did a good job of the beginning of this movie, because she's isolated in this, this gunny seat.
And
She's
the whole
isolated.
scene, I mean, it must have it went on for several minutes where it's just her. The camera doesn't even go anywhere. It's just
Yeah,
on her.
it was
You know,
about
for,
15
you know,
minutes.
yeah, it lasted a good long time. It was just dialogue. It was just dialogue. And they were just hammering sexism, all this distrust going on.
Right. And they're like, what's in the bag? And she's like, those are secret documents. I'm on a secret mission. If anyone knows the major so and so, the major will that goes into that package and opens it up. So she's on a mission, literally. She's but the mission is secret. She's got the documents to back up her claims, and so the story starts to progress. But I love the tension and atmosphere, and right at the beginning of this movie, and even before she gets on the plane, there was an odd moment where they have the men on the ground on the runway. I forget what they're called, but they're directing traffic. They have those flashlights, the cone lights, and then there's a fog bank that rolls in, and then suddenly
just disappears. The
he
guy
just disappears.
Right.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is going to be a creepy, really cool film. And I love period pieces. World War II always lends itself to interesting stories. So I'm like, oh, maybe there's going to be an element of the supernatural in this. And the movie even before that, and I apologize for speaking out of order, but the beginning of the movie is like a World War II cartoon that talks about
That's right.
gremlins and
Gremlins.
about the airmen need to be on their guard, they need to be vigilant, and they have to not be lazy or sloppy. They should be be wary of gremlins, or the trouble can come from anywhere, so you have to make sure that you are on point. So I'm like, all right, well, this is cool. And then she's on the plane and dealing with this. And right away, you can tell there's something sinister happening. And then after she sees this Japanese plane and then it disappears into the cloud bank, she sees a shadow underneath the wing of the plane. And immediately you realize, oh, okay, there's gremlins. There's gremlins in this. And so they are, the supernatural element is there. There's also a creature feature in this movie, and the tension starts to build. So now there's multiple enemies. There's the animosity of her own men in this plane.
True.
Who, the crew have locked her into this, and for some reason these gremlins have taken to sabotaging the hatch. So now she's stuck inside this I forget what it's called, but the gunnery seat, right. And she can't get out. And then she's stuck. So the tension starts to build, and the first half of this movie was really well done. And I felt like this is almost the best I've seen in the last year, and I was so hopeful for this movie.
Exactly. It started out so. I mean, everything about the movie was so polished. It was so just well put together.
Absolutely.
And the writing was fantastic. It was just really polished. I mean, it looked like it had a serious budget. I mean, also the understanding, whoever wrote it did a lot of research, as a struggling screenwriter, I know that it requires, I guess, a writer of any kind, whenever you go into something like this, it requires a ton of research on what you're doing, what the scenario is, and so whoever did it really understood the ins and outs of how these planes worked.
Right.
And because she was very knowledgeable on the plane, and even, for example, to get into and get out of that hatch, the gunnery hatch, you have to tilt it forward so it aligns the door properly so that you can open it and get back into the.
And so basically, instead of the gun facing forward, the window facing forward, you are now facing underneath, looking down at whatever is below you. So it's scary. I mean, it takes brass balls to be in that position. And so you realize that this character has brass balls, and you think and obviously not literally, I don't mean this in a sexist terminology, but she's got guts, more guts than any three of the men on this ship.
Yep.
And even to the fact that one of the guys tries to push, force, and she actually stops him and knocks him back on his ass. And I was like, all right, good for you. Like, don't let this guy bully you. And I liked, how she was very forceful and on this mission, and nothing was going to stop her from completing it.
Exactly.
So like you said, she's in this hatch, and then she's trying to realign herself and put the hatch back on top. So now she's facing down, and she's trying to get the hatch up, and that's when she realizes, I can't get out. The hatch is compromised, and I'm locked into this.
Because she tries to twist some kind of handle or something, and I think there's two of them, and they both break off.
Yeah.
And so it seems like, like the whole idea of that with the gremlins and everything, maybe, maybe it had something to do with it, whatever the case may be. But, and this thing, this fortress, this flying fortress, it's all mechanical. It's all, this metal, and, that nothing's wired. It's all gears and levers and, all this metallic things shifting and moving around, and maybe a little rusty. This is 1940s, and
Right.
it's all industrial, and whoever wrote it really had an understanding. They did a lot of research on how these things worked.
Yeah.
And then as things progress, we get to the point.
One of the other airmen sees the gremlin.
Yes.
And then they're like, "You're only seeing this because she told you about it." And she's
Right.
like, "What are you talking about? You shut my microphone off. You guys locked me out of comms. I couldn't say anything." And then they start blaming her for putting it in the guy's mind. But they see something. There's a giant rat on this ship, they call it. There's a massive rodent or whatever it is. But then she sees it because it jumps on the glass and it tries to attack her. One of the on the bubble itself, there's one of the glass panes is cracked and it's sending its tail into inside, and it's like trying to attack her with the tail. And so she's freaking out. So go ahead.
Yeah, and so as the the story progresses, there was so much tension in this scene. I was texting you about that. It was so well executed. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like raising my hands. I was like, oh my God, because it just went balls to the wall insane.
Yes.
It was so well done, that scene. Like, it was just, I was like, holy crap, they just did a fantastic job, because she's hanging upside down because we find out what's in the package, and it's something of extreme importance, to anyone,
but not the war effort as we thought. And then you find out that she, isn't who she says she is.
Exactly.
And the mission is not what she says she is. And I don't, we don't have a problem with spoilers, but I'm not going to, we won't give this one away.
Right. But this is something very, very valuable. And she goes and she's hanging upside down on the plane, right? The scene is crafted so well. Like, I was really like anxious as I was watching it.
So let me stop you. So what's happening at this point that Omar's not saying?
Sorry, I kind of jumped.
It's all right. This gremlin breaks a part of the plane and also is able to take this package with whatever important things are in it. And I guarantee you it's not a MacGuffin. There's something in this package, and it's not, secret plans that you initially thought or whatever. And she sees this box or this leather parcel dangling, from the plane. It's traveling 175 miles, 200 miles an hour, whatever it is, and it's dangling now on like this hook or piece of metal from the plane itself. The gremlin is taunting her because it realizes that it's of value to her. So she, finally breaks the portal open and is able to get out, and now is, like monkeying herself under the bottom of the plane. And what I do like in terms of from the direction of this, they actually flip the camera.
Yes.
So now Chloe Grace Moretz, even though she's dangling from the plane, she's actually, right side up. So you see her as being right side up, but she's hold on for dear life. And she's like, you don't know what I'm capable of, or I will do whatever it takes, and so she has this fortitude and crawls on the bottom of this plane to get this package back.
Yep.
Tons of tension. And almost to the point where I disbelieved. I was like, there's no fucking way you're going to hold on to the bottom of this plane, the undercarriage of this plane, and pull yourself along to get this package. But you realize, like, failure is not an option. That she this package holds something of such great value. She cannot let this package go.
Yeah.
She would die first before this package goes.
And like I felt the same way, but I still got dragged into the scene.
I did too.
You know, like it was so well done. It was one of the most tense scenes of any movie I'd ever seen, honestly. Like
Me too.
I was
You know
like, I swear, I was like this. I was like, oh my God.
When
so
you see
well
Tom
done.
Cruise in what do you call those movies?
Yeah, Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible films. Remember the first one where the helicopter blows up and throws him onto the thing, and he's crawling along the train at 150 miles an hour. That's I was like, all right, if I can suspend disbelief, because let's face it, that scene was bullshit too. But I was like, all right, I have to suspend disbelief for this. I mean, you can picture like for knowing what's inside that package, you would brave the underside, the undercarriage of a plane to drag yourself to get to this package to secure it.
Right.
So I was like, all right, this was really tons of tension, and I was all in on it.
Yeah, I got taken in. I was like, all right, this is excellent. But then
the Japanese come back.
Yes, then the Japanese come back. Okay.
Come back, not just one plane that they shot down earlier. Three planes return. And now they're in the process of shooting at them, and they're passing by, and they're firing at the undercarriage of the plane. They're firing at the plane itself.
She's still hanging, and she's still
hanging in there. She gets this parcel off of this, and now it's around her, and she's crawling her way back to the gunnery seat, and the Japanese shoot the plane and blow off the gunnery, the bubble on the bottom of this super fortress, blow it off the plane. And now she could either, continue to crawl her way through that opening in the bottom of the plane, and that's what she's trying to do. So she makes it back, and she gets this package, puts it into the plane, and she crawls up and then falls through the opening of where this gunnery seat was, and is hanging by a piece of cloth, and at that moment the cloth gives way and she plummets from the plane itself. And then go ahead and tell us what happens.
And then as she's falling, the Japanese Zero, which is on fire, explodes right under her, pushes her back into the plane. I don't know what the fuck kind of physics they were using, but that was the breaking point for me, where I was like, all right, okay, you were doing so well. You were doing so well. Come on now. Come on. And then it all fell apart.
It really did. It fell apart. And it was, I was all in on it too. I thought it was, I was texting back and forth, and you were like, oh my God, that's it. I can only suspend disbelief for so long. So let's face it, a plane is traveling 150, 200 miles an hour in this direction, and you fall out of the plane. Are you able to fall directly out and then have an explosion blow you back into a hatch that's 3x3? If you fall out of a plane that's traveling, that plane's going to continue to go. You're going to fall down and get blown up. You're not going to get blown back through a hatch. I don't care. I mean, if she fell out and it exploded immediately and blew her back in before she had time to clear the plane, that would have been better. But she flew out and was probably about 20 feet below the plane, traveling still, and then was blown back through this hole in the bottom. It was so annoying to see, because there's nothing other than this gremlin. There's nothing supernatural going on in this movie.
Exactly.
And they lead you to believe that there was, because like I said, the air traffic controller, disappears with the fog and he's gone. There's a gremlin in here. There's oddball things happening, but that's the only thing odd about what's taking place on this ship.
But then, so here's the thing. So I said, all right, fine. I forgave them. Okay. I forgave them for that. I said
Yeah,
everything was going so well in this movie. The
right.
tension was so good. The writing was so good.
Yeah,
I
the
was like, all right,
dialogue, the
the
animosity when she's
dialogue.
pushing her to be, to kind of
Right.
reveal her secret. I mean, all of these things were so good.
And so I forgave them. I said, all right. So then I keep going on, but it just lost it. I was like, it couldn't bounce, but like how she bounced back into the plane,
The
the
movie
movie
couldn't bounce
couldn't
back.
bounce
The
back.
movie needed another explosion to kind of bounce it back into reality.
It, I think what happened, it seems, I don't know if that's when the second writer maybe took over or something, but you have to try to match. I'm guessing that this is what happened, but it seems like you couldn't match the detail, the level of work involved with the first half of the movie because
Right.
it just didn't like just really just fell apart. Where I was just like, what am I watching? Everything up until that point was so perfect with this
Right.
movie.
I
All
agree
right.
with you. And this movie does suffer from a bunch of rewrites. And we were
Yeah.
reading up on it after the fact. We watched it, and then I was like, you know what? What the hell happened? And it was released to little to no fanfare, and it came. I guess it was released in September of 2020. I didn't hear much about it, which is surprising,
Yeah.
especially for Chloe Grace Moretz because she's such a great, solid actor. Whatever I've
She's
seen her in,
fantastic.
I thoroughly enjoy. I think she's excellent. And that's
She
when
is.
you were like, "Hey, this movie's got her in this." I'm like, "Oh shit, all right, I want to see this." So there are other things at play here. Like her character is great at no matter what she does. She shoots down the Japanese plane. She's fighting hand to hand with the fucking gremlin. She's going to the other side of the plane. The crewmen are getting shot and killed. She jumps on the tail gun and shoots down another plane. She was really all over. And then she jumps in, and when the captain gets shot, and which finally the captain apologizes to her for the way he acted, and
Right.
it's almost like, oh, all right, well, too little, too late, because you've just been shot and killed, so now you need to absolve yourself. But all right, I gave him, all right, there's no atheist in foxholes type of thing, right? Which I disagree with. As an atheist, I disagree with that.
Yeah.
And I was just in a foxhole recently, in a hospital for 10 days, not knowing if I had cancer or not. And I was sick as a dog. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
it's a badge of honor, but there was an atheist in a foxhole. So anyway, just being a dick.
Right.
But anyway, so the captain apologizes. Everything is right with some of the scenes in this movie, and then she has to take him out of the seat because they realize that the co-pilot can't control the plane. So she has the idea of, we're going to go into a barrel roll and turn the plane upside down, because if the nose is down and we're taking
Right.
a nosedive, if we
Yeah.
turn the plane upside down, then we're not going up, then we're not going down anymore. We're going up.
Exactly. I guess maybe the flaps were, down at this point. I mean, I don't know. I think at this point now with the second half is that the physics didn't even matter anymore,
So here's where the physics thing pissed me off, because if you fall
Huh.
out of a plane or drop something from a plane, it's going to go down, and then immediately the wind's going to carry it because there's a stream of air
There's,
moving things, and you're
yes,
traveling in a linear direction
right.
at
It's going to
200
fall
miles
at
an
an
hour.
angle.
It's
It's
going to
going to
fall
fall.
out at an angle.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They are fighting this creature in the plane, and one of the guys gets attacked by the backwards, and his arm flails and knocks open the Bombay doors, and there's just a tiny little walkway, like a runway,
Right.
to nothingness. And the man is thrown out of the plane, and then she is fighting this gremlin, and she takes the gremlin and is able to throw it from the plane, and she's waiting for it to, it's plummeting, and then suddenly it spreads its arms and it's got wings, and it's almost like a giant bat.
I mean, it is. It's got the face of a bat. I mean, it was straight
It
up
does. It was
a
bat-like,
bat.
which
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, so now you realize it's got wings and it shows off the wings and now it's flying. So she's taking, like ammo crates or what these boxes
Right,
or
right.
whatever. She's
Trying to
pulling them
throw it
down
down. Yeah,
and throwing them
yeah.
down. But you realize that it's directly below you. But when you throw something out of a plane, it's being carried behind you.
Right,
So
right,
it's going to
right.
get carried. So you can't hit something that's directly below you, like a plane that blows up. I'm just
Hello.
saying. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
So,
Hello.
okay, we suspend disbelief. It's a fantasy movie, right? It's an action fantasy movie. So we're going. Um, they turn the plane right side up now, and then they're able to clear these mountains, and they get over that, and they crash land the plane onto this long sandy beach, and they're able to clear the plane. They grab this package that carries this. It's a parcel that carries the utmost importance. The whole purpose for her getting on this plane was to have this package. Um, and then so they all escape when the plane blows up just in the nick of time. They're out onto the beach, and they get attacked by the gremlin.
Which I anticipated right away, man. I
Of
knew that
course,
was coming right away.
yeah, you get
But
attacked by the gremlin. There's 3 or 4 men on the beach. One of the men is actually holding the package, because and Chloe Grace Moretz starts to attack this gremlin, and the gremlin's attacking it back, and she gets into this fist fight with the gremlin and beats it up, and then kills it with its own claw. But none of the other men on the
they're
beach,
just standing there.
they're standing there watching her fight this creature by herself. And the creature starts fighting back, and they're still standing there looking at her and
And
looking at this
she's,
fight.
these guys are, two of them were, I mean, they were like roughed up or something, but they were in just as healthy as she was,
Yeah, and I'm like,
I mean,
why
and she
aren't the
also
rest?
she broke her finger really badly
Oh
earlier
my
on.
God.
It was I couldn't even look at the screen. I
was
couldn't.
like,
I had to look
holy
away. I was
shit.
like, oh, I
Yeah,
had
so
to look away.
she had to take and wrap her finger around her
Yeah,
other finger and she had to
because it
break
was
it
so
back
bad.
in place.
Yeah,
That's how bad it
yeah,
was. It was completely
right.
bent to the
Yeah,
side. Like her hand was straight, but her finger was like this.
exactly. It was really horrific.
It was
I
like a
couldn't
right
watch it.
angle almost.
Yeah,
It was.
yeah.
I was like, oh man.
Yeah, yeah. And then she's
So
been scratched up in this. And these guys are just sitting there watching as she's fighting this demon.
I love women empowered movies. I have no problem with
Very
them.
much.
I enjoy movies where a woman does not have to take a back seat. And one of the things that I've loved about Lord of the Rings, especially the novels, is the that leader of the Nazgul, the
Hmm.
Witch King of Angmar,
Yes.
cannot
Right.
be killed by any man. And Eowyn has the helmet on and takes the helmet off, and she says, "I am no man." One of the best scenes in any of the movies. If it wasn't for Eowyn, the Witch King of Angmar would have decimated the army. He would have
Ellen.
killed Theoden. He would have
Yeah.
killed Merry, and who knows
Right.
who else he would have destroyed, right? So
Ellen Ripley. Ripley, the
all right, so
Aliens is my favorite sci-fi movie. All right. The
Wonder
second.
Woman. I mean,
Right.
you can insert any strong female lead here, even to the remake of Night of the Living Dead. Barbara in the remake of Night of the Living Dead, would channeled Ellen Ripley, and she,
Yep.
even though in the beginning she was stunned and in shock, she snaps out of it and becomes a survivor and is actually one of the toughest characters. I love the remake of 19 of
Yes.
the Night of the Living Dead. It's one of
Right.
my favorite remakes. Because so much depth to the character. So I'm not a sexist. I admire when they do it right, but it just
Right.
seemed so like forced down your throat and so heavy-handed.
Ham-fisted.
It really was ham-fisted at the end of this movie. It's like she was such a strong character throughout the whole movie, but then you went and made her a cartoon character, rather than like she became like any other corny ass action star, where you could have made it realistic. And you
And
could
then
have done
also,
something really good with it.
I mean, the creature goes and grabs the package. Like, are you serious? I mean, that the gremlin comes back to take the package as if, I mean, just seemed so. I mean, come on, this is an animal. It's in the wildlife. It was if it was gonna, what it was so. Oh man,
It just
what
it,
happened?
I don't know. And that's so all right. So we beat a dead horse. We talked about it. We reviewed this movie. I really enjoyed the movie overall. There were some things that it was tough to get past, but I did my best to get past many of them. I enjoyed the hell out of the atmosphere in this movie. As the first half of the film was really decent. The acting is great, and to see this movie, I watch it on my computer this time. Normally, I watch it on my TV, but I had my headphones on. The soundtrack of the movie,
Oh
like
yeah,
we mentioned, it starts off so great. Like I love synth soundtracks, and this has a great one. But it's anachronistic. So it kind of
right.
pulled me out of 1943 because it sounded like it was 1983.
80s.
And you know what I mean? So it had a great synth soundtrack, but it throws you off because, it's 1943. There shouldn't be a synth
Right.
soundtrack here.
Yeah.
So anyway, the soundtrack was good, but I think it was, maybe it would have been better off at the end during the credits rolling than it would have been in the beginning of the movie. And as well as the tension is really great, but there's other things going on here that I think in the urge to make a movie about equality, you're missing the point. You're missing the point
Right.
about and listen, there are women that are strong that will kick my ass. I'm not saying that, but to just have one person attacking, to want to have one person attacking it, and it's only Chloe Grace Moretz when there are three other soldiers standing around, where two of them at least could have jumped in on the fight. It just doesn't seem right. It just doesn't
Well, I
seem
mean,
natural.
that's due to poor writing because when you write
Yes.
something like that, you need to set up the proper scenario so that she's alone with the creature and there's no one there to help her. Where you just don't have, a couple of guys just standing there watching her fight.
Right. And I
You
don't
have
think
to
that
throw in.
she might not
Right,
have needed the help, but my point is that she wouldn't have gone in alone.
right, right.
Soldiers aren't going to let one of their own fight a creature like that by themselves. They're going to jump in,
Yeah,
not just everyone staring at her, and because she's a superhero,
yeah,
she's not. So
right.
anyway, so that's my big gripe. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Um,
Uh,
3 turrets out of 5 turrets. That's my
um,
take.
yeah, I'm gonna give it. I'm going to give it 2.5 because
I hear
I'm
you.
going to give it the first half, basically out of 5 stars, 2.5 stars because of the first half. I think it was
Hmm.
around the halfway point where it just fell apart
Yeah.
because the tension up in the air when she's hanging upside down, that scene alone was worth the price of admission.
Hmm.
It was just so well crafted, but
Yeah.
then it was just such a letdown for the second
Yeah.
half, and I was just angry. It made me
Hmm.
angry that you had such excellent work in the first half, and then
Yeah.
you just let it go, man. You let it
I
go.
hear you.
I
I really
love,
enjoyed
I love,
not
yeah,
just the acting on her part, but the voice
right,
acting, because everything in the first
yes,
half takes place in the headset,
right,
and the voice acting back and forth, the bickering between themselves,
right,
the dialogue was cringy. You hear these things and you're like,
yes,
oh my god, like who the fuck says that? And then
right,
you realize, well, it's 1943. Dames, were like painted on the side of the plane. They're not flying them.
yeah,
And
yep,
so, and even though there were women in the Air Force, and they flew during missions during World War II. So maybe I don't know if they flew combat missions per se, but they did fly. So I really liked some of this movie. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because it has these
yeah,
other elements in it. But yeah, what a letdown. It could have been
Uh,
so much better than what it ended
it,
up being.
I mean, honestly, it could have been. It could have been a classic. It could have been a classic. Like
It
really.
certainly started off that
Yeah.
way. I was like,
Yeah.
this is going to be my new favorite movie. Oh shit, it's not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. You sent me the text, and I was like, and at that point, I had already seen where it starts to falter, and I was like, "Oh, Len, you're in for a big surprise," because I was there too. I was like, "All right," and then at just that crack, that it happened at just one point, boom. I was like,
No,
"All right, that's it. It's gone. It's
yeah, they
gone."
just it shit the bed.
Yeah,
So
it did.
anyway, let us know what you think. We're gonna post up on Instagram. We're gonna have this video on our YouTube channel. Let us know what you think of this movie. Check it out. It's I hate being disappointed, but there's so many movies lately that do that. And
Yeah.
it's been like a desert of things in the last 2 months where I'm like, where's the really juicy, great movies? I haven't really been able to see them. There were so many decent movies that we caught last year that we really thoroughly enjoyed. I'm waiting for them to pop, and so I'm gonna keep digging. So if you guys find something, please message us on Instagram. Let us know.
Peace.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining Cinema Slaughter, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks, Omar.
All right.